Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 80s Parenting Podcast. I'm Heather, and I'm here with my lifelong BFF, Melinda.
Oh, hello. Hello, Heather. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am doing well. So, what are we
Good.
talking about today? It's a mystery for me. What is
A
it?
mystery for you. So, I live in like uptown Phoenix, and there's a lot of traffic here, as there is most places in major cities. So, I live on a corner, and my corner is like a main street on one side and a little side street on the other, but there's a stoplight. And if you go up about 2 blocks, there's a huge intersection, like a main intersection. So every morning I go outside and I have my tea before I go to work. And I watch people all day long out my window who turn left on the side street, thinking it's the big street.
Okay.
And then they come down and they have to turn around. And it's kind of comical. And so yesterday I was thinking about like navigation and
Okay.
not navigation through life, but navigation like getting from point A to point B. And then that got me thinking, okay, well, wait a minute. So we now use like our GPS. We ask Siri where something is, and she tells us, or he tells us, however you have your voice settings set, exactly how to get there, right?
Or not on at all. Yes,
Or
that's
not on
right.
at all. But somehow you're relying on a computer to get you places.
Right.
And so back in the day, I got my driver's license in 1989.
Yeah.
And we used to have to, our version of navigation was you better hope you have a fucking friend in the passenger seat and you got that fold up crinkly ass map that friend has it like open and they're like, okay,
Yeah.
wait, where are we? Where are we? And trying to navigate the way. Or you call ahead and you get directions to a said place. Like I remember, now this wasn't in the 80s, this was in the 90s when I used to come over to California to visit you after you left, and you would always ask Chad for directions. And so I'd have this whole long sheet of paper that told me where to get off of the freeway, where to get off of, where to turn on this side street, that side street, whatever. So then I started thinking, okay, well, wait a minute. This is interesting because we used to get the worst directions to desert parties, but we found them,
Yeah.
right? Like some spicoli looking dude would come out of the woodwork and be like, hey, desert party at here. And you turn left at the cactus and you turn right at the Palo Verde and it's up about me, a couple of ticks, and then off to the left. You'll see it. Somehow we figured it out and we made it.
Yeah.
But now I can't find shit without my GPS. Like I used to have great recall of things. Like I would go there once
Yeah.
and I'd never have to look again. I would just be
Mhm.
like, okay, yes, that's how you get there. I
Right.
cannot do that anymore.
No.
And GPS is terrible because I swear to God, she takes you a different route every single time you go somewhere.
Well, only if you have live traffic on. No, maybe.
I don't know. I don't even know. I don't even know how to set it. My kid the other day, he needed to be picked up. And I was like, okay. And he's like, okay, I dropped a pen. I'm like, well, did you fucking pick it up? And he's like, no, I dropped a pen. I'm like, pick it up.
Did you think you meant pen, like
Yeah, I
writing
thought he meant like
pencil?
an actual writing pen.
Not
Now I
pin,
know.
like P-I-N
Now I know
pen?
like PIN.
Yeah.
I dropped a pin with my location. And then he's like, no, mom, I dropped a pin of my location. I'm like, I don't know
Yeah.
what that means.
Oh yeah. Well, then you just tap on it and then it gives you directions to the location.
Well, yeah, now I know that.
Okay.
Now I know. So if somebody drops me a pen, I'll be able to
Mhm.
find you. But I was just like, what the fuck are we talking
So
about?
I think it's the opposite for me. So I remember when we were younger and you used to know where everything was.
Mhm.
I remember that. I
Yeah,
remember you used to know where everything was. And I think it's because you drove. So you were aware of street names and you are good at recall. Like you're good at recall like of street names
mhm.
and things like that. And like it's on the corner of whatever, Alma School and whatever. And pardon me, Arizona is kind of a little bit easier because it's a grid system.
Right.
So it's a little bit easier. So even if you're going down the wrong street, you can course correct pretty fast.
Yeah.
But that doesn't necessarily mean that you can remember where things are. So, and that's the thing. I was talking to you about this. Do you remember the other day I was talking to you like just in on text messages about how we would survive longer in a world with no technology?
Oh, 100%.
You know,
Because
because
now,
it went from asking people directions,
mhm.
and then it went for in my day, it was like a regular map, and then it was Map Quest where you could print out
Yeah, you could print out the
all
directions.
the directions and you would take all the directions with you. And then, but somebody would have to be with you because you can't look at the Map Quest at the same time as you're
Mhm.
driving. And, or you could be someone like Chad that just reads it once and remembers like an asshole, you know,
I wasn't that good, but I always looked when if I hit like a stoplight or something, or
you
I'm
would
trying
look
to
real
like,
quick.
oh, I got it.
Oh yeah. You would look real quick. I am now, I use the reason why I use Waze, the Waze app is
Mhm.
for time,
Oh, okay.
the timing of it. Do I use it to go now? Well, because in California, it's just a crapshoot where you're gonna go and where you're gonna find and what road you end up on. In even ways, since it's live traffic, it'll take you here, there, and everywhere before you get to your destination. So you could go the same place, but like 5 different routes.
Oh yeah, when we were in a couple of years ago, when Caleb and I went to Los Angeles because I was thinking about moving there,
Hmm.
and we rented an Airbnb in Silver Lake, and then we were going to go to Hamburger Mary's for dinner. And it's like GPS took us one way. I have no idea where we went, but we ended up in West Hollywood somehow.
Yeah,
And then when we went to go back, we went a totally different way. And then the next day we were going to go to Hollywood Boulevard to look at this clinic that I wanted to look at working at. And it took us a completely different way, even though we
yeah,
weren't that far from where we were the night before. And then going back again to the Airbnb took us a totally different way. Like it
yeah.
never takes me the same way twice. And I'm like, I don't know how people learn how to navigate around there.
I think
And
it's different. It's different because you're used to everything being like black and white in a
I'm
grid.
used to the grid.
Yeah, and here it's a different way. Like you can't get to like I could not drive surface streets and not get on the freeway to go places. Like
Mess.
there's not enough back streets. Like it would end for
Yeah.
me to get from like I mean maybe, but I'd have to cross some sort of freeway system before I would get somewhere. Like say for example, I'm in San Diego, so to go from my house to say downtown San Diego, I could go on Coast Highway, but then you have to navigate other streets. And I mean, it would take you 300 years to get there.
Yeah.
You could probably get there on surface streets. Maybe. I'm thinking no, because it just ends. It's just the road will just end. And then you have to
Yeah.
like jump on another road or the freeway to get to like say downtown San Diego. So and then like from my house to downtown San Diego, it's like 40 minutes. So you just take the freeway. But here I use the Waze app every single day.
Do you?
Yeah, to know what time I'm gonna make it there. I'm like, okay,
Oh,
if I leave at this time, like it, and it's pretty accurate. I try to beat it all the time. I try to beat the number all like almost every day.
you too by speeding.
I try to beat the time there, you know, like oh, a stoplight, you know. But I try to beat the time there. But I think that uh I don't know. I for me it's not I'm directionally challenged.
Mhm.
Like if you would tell me if you would speak the directions to me, like back in the day, if you would tell me the directions, I'd be like, what?
Yeah.
But if you tell me like, okay, you go down here, you turn left at the Target, and then you turn right at the Chick-fil-A, then I would know where it was.
Where it was. You use landmarks.
I use landmarks. I cannot remember street signs. I don't even know the names of the streets in my own neighborhood.
Yeah. Well,
I
and the
don't.
weird thing is like, so I know your mom didn't teach you how to drive. I tried to
No.
teach you how to drive. It was a terrifying experience and I vowed to never do it again. So I'm assuming Chad taught you how to drive.
Yeah, Chad taught me. I was 19. I was like 19, almost 20 when I got my driver's license.
And see, I learned how to drive. Technically, I started driving in 1982 when
Yeah.
I was like 9 years old because my grandparents lived on a golf course and they had a
Mhm.
golf cart. And every time I went over to my grandparents' house, that was the absolute first thing I wanted to do was hop in that golf cart and go. And
Yeah.
so my grandpa taught me essentially how to driving a golf cart because I was always at my grandparents' house because my mom was always at work. And then my dad always worked too when they were still married. But yeah, I've spent so much time at my grandparents' house. And so I cruised that golf cart all over the place. I do remember too, it was funny. So do you remember their trailer that they lived in, their mobile home that they lived in?
Hmm. Oh,
And
I remember it. I remember a little tidbit about that golf cart.
yeah, I love that golf cart. So they had this tiny little shed that they converted into a little garage for it. And I remember I wanted nothing more than to be able to back the golf cart out and pull it in. And my grandpa was always like, no, you're going to wreck it into the wall. So it took probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 years of driving that golf cart before I finally got to back it out. And probably another year after that before I got to actually pull it into the little shed garage thing.
That's
I
funny.
eventually I graduated to the driveway, the little rock driveway for it. But yeah,
I can totally picture that right now. Okay, so your grandparents lived on a golf course,
yes.
hence the golf cart. I mean,
Mhm.
sometimes people now have them without golf courses,
This is
but
true.
I remember you talking your grandfather into me driving the golf cart one time. One time. And I had never driven anything. I drove my bike. That's
Yeah.
about all that I drove, and that was questionable. And I started driving the golf cart, and there's in the on the green, there was a whole bunch of golf balls.
Uh,
And I guess I ran over too many golf balls, and he made me get out and let you drive or him drive. So my whole driving experience, because I mean, let's face it, your grandfather wasn't the patientest of a
oh
person.
no, 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 no.
So I ran over too many golf balls for him. So that was my short-lived driving experience at whatever age we were young, whatever age we were.
I used to get in trouble all the time because their cart path on this golf course, because it was like, it wasn't the Phoenician or something. It wasn't a TPC course, let's just say that.
Yeah,
And so the cart path was dirt. And so there would always be holes in it from like the sprinklers and stuff like that. There's a million potholes in this dirt cart path, right?
yeah,
And so I'd hit the bumps because you're supposed to stay on the path. And he used to get so pissed at me, be like, quit hitting all the bumps. You're doing it on purpose. I'm like, I'm staying on the path, which we're supposed to do.
yeah.
And he's like, well, you can go around the damn bumps. I was like, okay, going off the
Well, now
path.
that I know, but now that you're older, that's one thing. That's one thing about the 80s and like in parenting or grandparenting, it's like you didn't explain, like, okay, the rules are this. The rules are you stay on the path. But the rules can be a bit lenient when there's nobody else on the path.
And you know what else? There was no why. There was just because I said so.
Yeah. Yeah, because I said so. Yeah, that's true. But that's the thing is like if he would have just said to you like, "Hey, just swerve over a little bit when you see a hole on the path," you would have been like, "Okay," and then that would have been the end of story, and maybe your life would have been a lot better
Yeah.
after.
Or, go around the potholes so that you don't ruin the suspension of the golf cart. And then you won't be able to drive it again when you come over because it'll be out of commission. No, there was no why. There was
Yeah.
just don't do it because he said don't do it. That's grandpa voice. R.I.P. Grampy. I love you.
I know. What was your grandpa's name again?
Frank.
That's right, Frank and Ruby. Oh, Ruby Cube.
Frankie was my bestie. even
Oh,
though he
Frank.
was a crotchety old grump.
Yeah, he was cute though. Your grandma was a crack up. Yeah, your grandparents were
Was
pretty
wild.
cool. Your grandparents were cool. I don't know how they produced your mother,
I don't know. But
but
then, like, when it came time for me to actually drive, like, I don't even feel like my mom really taught me. It was just get into a bigger, heavier vehicle with other cars around you, and off we
yeah.
go.
Well, I think
I
too, like you wanted your driver's license so bad because
oh, I went that day.
you were stuck at home all the time by yourself.
Yeah,
So you didn't want to wait. You wanted to cruise the roads. And I
yeah,
remember that day. I think you picked me up.
I'm sure I did.
And then you were trying to like you would always try to teach me how to drive while you were driving.
This one, learning how to drive. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Okay.
1989. You get your learner's permit and you have to have a licensed driver with you. Now, nowadays, you can't, at least in Arizona, you can't have more than one passenger in the car with you, and it can't be like a newly licensed driver with somebody with their learner's permit. I
Yeah.
think they learned from our generation that that was a terrible idea for a new
I don't
driver
know. Could you? I don't remember.
to teach other people.
Yeah.
So, you had gotten your, I think you got, no, you didn't even have your permit. You didn't even have your permit. You had
No,
nothing. And
I
we
had
were on
nothing.
side streets. We were
Yeah.
just on side streets where the speed limit was like 25 miles an hour. A car coming from the other direction turns and starts coming towards us, and you pulled over on the side of the road and stopped. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Like, there's a car coming. I'm like, it's gonna happen.
Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. You make fun of me now, but you'll feel bad in a second. You know why I didn't want to drive?
Why?
Because I was afraid.
Oh,
No, after our car accident, I was afraid.
oh,
Yeah,
that's true.
I was petrified to drive because I thought the same thing was going to happen to me. Like
Yeah.
that I would panic through an intersection and I would get run over through the intersection. Like that was my
Oh,
mentality, like that. And that's the thing though, too, is nobody said anything to me after that. So, long story short, Heather and I got in a horrific accident when we were, how old were we? It was like it was 1989.
16,
Yeah.
16, 17.
Yeah, I think so. And speaking of newly licensed drivers,
Mm.
so
She was
normally,
brand newly licensed.
yeah, normally my mom would pick me up at school, but for some reason we decided that I was going to get a ride home from this girl who I can't even remember her name anymore.
I
So,
do, but I'll leave it nameless.
yeah. So anyway, so it was five of us.
Five of us.
Five of us went into a Volkswagen Beetle, like a stick shift older Beetle. And I didn't really know this girl. I didn't know her that well. The only person I knew in that car really well was you.
Yeah.
And who knows? They had to have been your friends.
I didn't know the girl that was driving very well, but I knew one of the other passengers really well.
Okay.
And that's why we got a ride with
And
them.
that's why we got a ride. Okay. So, and our school wasn't that far from
No.
where I lived. Like I
Hmm.
had to walk home one time. I mean, it was a
Yeah,
trek.
I walked to school a couple times.
Yeah, it was a trek for sure, but it wasn't impossible.
No.
So
Took an
anyway,
hour.
huh?
Took an hour.
Yeah, in the heat. Ugh. Anyway, so we're driving in this car. I don't know. I guess I called my mom from the school, um, what do you call it? Office. I called my mom from the office, said I didn't need a ride, and she said okay. So, and like I think she questioned it at the time because in my mind, I'm like, should I why am I doing this? Like, I remember thinking, like, why am I getting a ride home? Like, what's the purpose of this? It
Hmm.
wasn't like we were going to go eat something first or go somewhere first. She was just
No.
giving us a ride home, and it wasn't like she had like a cool car or anything like that.
No.
So,
I don't
anyway,
remember why we did. Why wasn't I driving that day?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Your mother probably didn't give you the car.
Probably.
So, anyway, so we get into this car, all five of us. So, there's two people in the front and 3 in the back, and there's no seat belts in
There
this
was
car.
no back seat. It was like plywood. It was one of those like Baja Beetles
Yeah,
where there's no back seat. That's meant to be like an off-road vehicle.
yeah. So anyway, so we're driving along, and we go through an intersection, and it's a stick shift, and new driver doesn't want to stop. So
Hmm.
new driver goes straight through the intersection on a red light, and the only things that I remember, I have like tiny bits and pieces that I remember. I remember seeing the light was red. I
Hmm.
remember screaming stop.
Yep.
And then I remember it was a Khalil bottle truck
Yep.
that is now probably like Sparklets or something. And it was at the time, the bottles weren't plastic, they were glass. So those glass reusable, refillable water service delivery trucks. And I remember seeing the logo as it like hit us from the
Mhm.
left side. And we ended up, speaking of landmarks, we ended up in the Jack in the Box parking lot.
Yep.
Hot as fucking hell that day. It was hot, right? So the weird thing about the universe is things collide, and they collide in like seconds, right?
Mhm.
So I remember the truck hitting us. I remember, I don't know how I got out of that car. And you have to picture there's 5 of us plus 5 like book bags full of books, right?
And the car rolled on its side.
Yeah, the car rolled on its side over to the Jack in the Box parking lot.
Yeah.
So through the entire intersection,
Hmm.
it moved over, over to the parking lot of the fast food place. So for some weird reason, you and Barbie hopped out, and she was panicked about the cut on her head, which everybody knows that cuts on your head leak like a sieve.
Yeah.
So they ran into I mean, we're kids. We're
Yeah.
like 16 years old, so we don't know what we're doing.
Yeah. No clue.
No clue. So they run in there, and they no regard for any of the other passengers in the car. They're like, we're just gonna worry about ourselves. But that's another thing in therapy workout. So anyway, two passengers are gone. I don't know what happened. Oh, I remember her name now. I don't know what happened to her. I don't know what she was doing. But I do remember, who was the other person?
We shared the same name.
Oh, that's right. Okay. So weird circumstance. So my friend we were on track and cross country together. Her mother was behind us.
That's
And
wild.
yeah, isn't that wild? So Lenora, RIP, just passed a few years back.
Oh.
Sweetest woman. And my friend Christy Cruz. So she ran over and recognized us and put a blanket down on the hot asphalt
Hmm.
for me to lay on because I kept saying my back,
Hmm.
but it was really my collarbone
Yeah.
that broke. But anyway, so we she ran over and put the blanket down, and then she drove to my house, got my mom, and then the only other thing that I remember is the EMTs asking me who the president was, and I had no idea. I had no idea. And I'm like, what? I don't know. And, really, who cares? And who knows at
Yeah.
16, right? And like, they're asking me like all, the standard, conscious questions because
Yeah.
I ended up having a head injury anyway. But
Yeah.
so and then all I remember is looking up. I didn't, I remember seeing a glimpse of my mom, but I remember seeing we got air evac'd to
Hmm.
the hospital. But I remember looking up and seeing the lights on the air vac, and then I passed out. I don't remember anything about the air ride. I don't remember
Yeah, I
any
don't
of
know.
that. I don't remember any of them like putting any tubes or anything in me or bracing me up. I don't remember anything like that. And then I remember being in the hospital emergency room and they like had to like cut my shirt off.
Hmm.
And I remember being like sad because I liked that shirt. But and then I remember someone saying you're lucky to be alive because the impact of that accident, because the people were going full force through the
Yeah.
intersection.
It was going like 50 miles an hour.
Yeah, and because there was so many of us with so many like book bags and stuff,
Hmm.
then that saved us. But anyway, so horrible experience. We spent a few days in the hospital, blah blah blah. But like my mom never talked about that after that. And now as a parent, can you imagine?
No, not at all.
That's
I,
hard. Like,
the wild thing is, like, I don't even remember your mom being there. I
yeah,
remember I ran into the bathroom with Barbie girl
yeah.
and like panicked because I was like, oh crap, what about everybody else in the car? Because I guess I knew I was destined to be in the medical profession, my future. So I was like, shit, I gotta go save some lives.
There you go.
So she was like, clearly she was all right. She had a cut on her head, and it was a tiny cut. Once we got some water on it and saw it, it was
Yeah.
like itty bitty cut. And so I was like, all right, you're fine. So I ran back out. I remember running back outside, and I remember I don't know how you got out of the car, but I remember you laying on the ground because I actually stood up and jumped out the window of the
Yeah.
car and like hopped over the car.
I think either Lenora pulled me out of the car or a passerby pulled me out of the car because
Yeah.
it wasn't anybody in the car.
No. And I came back out and you were laying on the ground and I came out and I sat down and the firefighters and everybody were just starting to get there. And
Yeah.
I sat down and I just remember my eyes rolling back in my head. And I remember a glimpse of like, I do remember at one point laying on the concrete in the parking lot. I don't remember getting into the helicopter because, we had to do everything together. So we got to share a plane ride.
Yeah.
It was super fun.
Not the cost of it.
Nope. Individual bill there. Um, but I don't remember being in the helicopter at all. No memory of that whatsoever. I don't remember them asking me any questions. I do remember waking up in like the trauma bay thing because it was freezing cold
Mhm.
and they were cutting my clothes off, and I was hella pissed because my mom, bless her, she did not buy me clothes, expensive clothes. Like I got $100 for school clothes, which, in the 80s was like, I guess, okay, you could shop at like Mervyn's, which Mervyn's doesn't exist anymore. I guess the equivalent to Mervyn's would be like J.C. Penney now, or Old Navy, maybe.
Yeah, I would say
Um,
Old Navy. Yeah.
yeah, you could get like a few things with $100 at Old Navy. That's all I got every year for school clothes. If I wanted anything brand name, then I had to pay for it myself. And of course, Guess was like huge in the late 80s. Everybody wanted Guess jeans, Guess shirts, and then all
Mhm.
that stuff. And so I had saved and saved and saved and saved for my $3 an hour job at the old video store and bought myself a pair of Guess jeans and a Guess shirt. And got both of them got cut off.
I guess they didn't last.
I guess they didn't last.
And then now you think about it, and that was our main concern, not like our health.
No, yeah, who cares that I had a massive head injury and I couldn't
Yeah.
walk for like a month without puking? I
Yeah.
was like,
I know.
don't have the gas chains.
I know. And then when you break your collarbone, you can't have a cast. So I was in,
Sling.
despair for a long time because
Yeah, they put you in a sling.
yep. So I broke my collarbone and I had a concussion and gashes and all sorts of stuff because I was the one that got the brunt of the impact
Mhm.
of the car,
Yeah,
which
because I was on the opposite side of the car facing you. Because
yeah,
again, no back seat. So why would we
no
sit like
back
normal
seat.
people in a seat? Ugh.
Exactly.
Safety,
So
safety was not a big thing in the 80s.
safety, yeah. So anyway, I don't know why I got in that car or why I did it, but anyway, let's circle back, shall we? Heather, this is why I didn't want to get a driver's license.
Okay, now it makes sense.
Yes, I was like just I was so afraid to get it. And then of course I told Chad that like I told him like, I was in this car accident. And let's even go a little bit further and a little darker
Oh,
is that they announced at the school that we had died.
that's wild.
And so I remember because it was the end of the school year. So I went into my chemistry class. Yeah, I could still picture it was on the bottom floor like towards like north of the friggin' gym that I spent a lot
Yeah.
of time in cross country and track. And really it like ruined my cross country and track career, that accident.
But that-
Yeah, because I couldn't, my arm was never the
Yeah,
same,
your arm was,
you
yeah.
know? So anyway, I went into the class and like people were amazed that we were there.
Yeah. I don't think I think I only went back for like 1 or 2 days
Yeah.
because I had like massive balance problems and head issues, and could be why I've had a life of crippling migraines.
There you go. Probably trace it back. But anyway, so the the sad thing was is no one thought we were alive. And then but the silver lining of that whole experience was all of my teachers. So they must have had a meeting together, all the
Uh-huh.
teachers of my teachers, and said that I didn't have to do all the finals.
Nice.
So, I mean, I was a student anyway, so that didn't really matter. But I did not, and I was like, "Why?" And they're
Yeah.
like, "You're good." Now I get it.
Yeah, no kidding.
Now I get that that's the reason why they
That's
didn't
crazy.
make me take the finals, traumatic experience aside.
I guess I didn't have to take them either. I don't remember
Yeah,
because I
but I
only went back for
remember
1 or 2 days.
distinctly them saying that you don't have to, the chemistry teacher saying that you don't have to take the final.
I think they just gave us the grade for the because it was like the last week of school or something crazy.
Yeah,
Like I think
it
they just
was
gave us
not far.
whatever grades were
Yeah.
at the
Yeah,
time
I
we
know
went
because
out.
I had to spend the whole summer in the sling and I couldn't like it was too painful to swim and stuff like that. But I mean
Yeah,
like kids heal quick.
yeah.
So I healed pretty quick after that. So yeah, that is the reason why I was afraid. So I told Chad, then my boyfriend, now husband, that I'm like, yeah, I'm just afraid to drive because of that accident. And he's like, okay, that's okay. We'll work through it. And like he would slowly
Oh,
show me how to drive. He's a keeper. He'd slowly show me how to drive. And I remember he lived, because now we're in California, right? And it's very hilly. And he had a CRX stick shift,
nice.
no back seat. And so, ooh, too soon. But I remember we would go up on this hill by where he lived and he'd pull the emergency brake and he's like, all right, try it out.
Yeah,
And I'd be like, no, like I would, because it was scary.
I learned how to drive a manual in Kingman, Arizona.
There you
And it was my dad's Ford Mustang. And Kingman is surprisingly hilly. It's a town in the mountains. I don't recommend it. I mean, I guess
Well,
it's
I
fine.
mean, hence mountains,
I
hilly.
guess it's fine. But yeah. So there was a lot of hills there, but that's how I learned how to drive a manual transmission. I think that's a valuable skill.
That
It
is a
was
valuable skill because when Shiz goes to Frizz, we can drive.
we can drive anything.
We can drive anything. And I tell you what, we can read a map.
Yes, we can.
We know northeast, southwest.
Yes, we do.
Never
Never eat
eat
shredded wheat.
shredded wheat.
Yeah, we do.
Never
And
eat shredded
we can
wheat.
find a desert party.
We can find a desert party. And I'm gonna tell you where I live now, how I remember northeast, southwest when I first moved here.
Yeah.
West is water, like ocean.
Oh,
West
yeah.
is ocean. And north is Nevada, because if I drive that way, it's Nevada. South
Yes.
is San Diego, like the actual downtown San Diego. And then east is just the other one. East is like East
At least
County.
you just don't go there.
Yeah, east. Well, east is like Escondido.
Oh, okay.
So like that's how I remember it. But anywhere I'm at, I can I can resurface myself and say, okay, that's north.
Yeah.
That's, south. You know what I mean? Like that's what I can do now. So when people say it's funny when people say like, um, I just read a meme the other day that said, I mean, I'm paraphrasing because I don't remember exactly what it said, but it's like, what do you think we're Lewis and Clark when you say turn east? east at the landing and west, go west for 3 clicks.
Well, here's how old I am. I use the sun.
The sun. Well,
The
yeah, I mean,
sun
so
comes up
yeah,
in the east, goes down in the west.
yeah, exactly. And that's one way you could tell. Or the moon, you could tell by, and you could tell what time it is
Roughly,
by
yeah.
by
So
where the moon is. I
daylight savings time.
I
Throws
can.
you all off.
Daylight saving does not, because you just know that it's an hour earlier. So now it's easier for me. So now I know it's light out, it's early, because
Yeah.
that's what the farmers used to, that's the purpose of it, the daylight saving, because they're saving it, right? So they could get up earlier and it'd be light out, so they could get all their chickens and cows and things taken care of earlier.
They could move them 3 clicks to the north.
3 clicks to the north, into the never, and then they give them the shredded wheat into the shredded wheat
In
pasture.
Nevada.
The shredded wheat pasture in San Diego. But the anyway, so now, and that's easier, and now it's like it just gets dark so early,
Yeah,
like 4:45.
I
It's
don't have that problem.
no. And then that's why they should do away with daylight saving, because the farmers don't care. Farmer got help. Farmer
Are there
has,
even still farmers?
yes, there's the
I
farmers
know.
have all the machines and stuff now, and lights. They actually have lights, not, the sun.
Right. Nice.
So anyway, directionally challenged sometimes. But yes, technology is definitely not it if you would have learned the way we would have learned, you would be better off in different situations.
Yeah, sometimes I ask myself, is technology really making us dumber? I don't think it's making us dumber. I think it
No,
makes us not pay attention as much.
I think it depends. I
Because
think
I
it
think that's my problem, why I can't get anywhere now, is because I don't have to pay attention. Like when I was a kid and we were trying to navigate old school way with the
Mhm.
map or
Yeah,
directions, you had to pay attention really to where you were going because there was no reverse directions.
yeah.
You had to remember how you got there to remember how to get back to where you came from.
Mm.
And so I feel like now it's got to be that I just don't pay attention anymore because I don't have to, because I know that the freaking car is going to tell me how to get there and the car is going to tell me how to get back home. The car
Yeah.
even automatically is like home. And then
Yeah.
when I
I
get
think that
when I
I
do,
think I don't know why I pay attention more than now than I used to. I don't know. But I
yeah.
think technology it makes us smarter. I think it depends on how you look at it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many things that you can learn
Well,
even
yeah.
online now, and there's so many things. Yeah, are you dependent on technology? Of course you are. What are we
Mm,
dependent on the most about technology? Let me ask you that question.
Google.
No.
Social media.
No, go
TikTok.
even further back.
I don't the internet.
Wi-Fi.
Oh, well, that's the internet goes along with that.
It's everything.
Yeah.
If your Wi-Fi goes out, what happens? One, you're pissed. And
Yes.
you're like, why is this Wi-Fi out? And that's the thing too, is the patience factor that we have now. We want everything right away. So
But see, technology should be its own episode, honestly. But
yeah.
this
I
is why
mean, it's just like
I like a book.
yeah, the thing is patience went out the window with
Oh yeah.
technology, because now it's like if it's not working right away, people get so frustrated.
Mm.
But really, I mean, I remember in 1993 was my first internet job. Like I
Mhm.
worked at an internet cafe here in Old California,
Mhm.
and they had 28.8 modems.
I don't
And then
know.
when they went to 32.2 modems, it was like, I was like, oh, this is great. I mean, yes, you would turn on your internet, go make a sandwich, come
Listen
back,
to the dial-up tones.
and that sound, because I worked in this internet cafe and we had to manually disconnect and reconnect
Ugh.
modems. So, and if someone was, that's another story. But the I still hear that noise in my head now. It's
Yeah,
hilarious.
that's so funny.
I still ding 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 ding.
Nice.
But
All right,
anyway,
kids. Well, thank you for joining us today. If you have a story you'd like to share, please send us a DM. We'd like to hear about your navigationally challenging life, or struggles that you had with as an early driver. So send us a DM. Someday we'll have a website and an email.
wait, we have an email.
Oh, hey, we have an email. What's our email?
80s parenting podcast at gmail.com.
There you go. Send us your stories, or if you'd like to be a distinguished guest on our podcast,
Yeah.
let us know. We'll carve out some time for you.
We'll carve out some time. And all this information is in the show notes on the podcast, or you can click the 80s parenting actual podcast on any podcast platform, and all the information will come up, the email and everything, and our social medias.
Great. Have a fantastic week, kids.